Hello, my Westward Expanders. We are here for our Wednesday lesson. Tuesday, Wednesday, anyways, week 33 history lesson. I've got quarantine brain. I don't know what day it is. All right, so I'm here in my Western gear, but I actually have to take it off because this lesson is about westward expansion. But it is also about a very serious matter that has to do with the native peoples that also moved west. Not by choice, but by force. So I'm taking off my westward expansion gear to talk about our Native American people. Okay, so we introduced this week the Trail of Tears. That's the trail that the Cherokees had to travel, forced by the American government to move. They called it the Trail of Tears because it was a time of great sadness. Almost 50 years before this time, the American government had made a promise to the natives that, especially the Cherokees, that they would always have their land. They would never be removed from it. And then the American government did not keep their promise and forced the people from their land. And so I'm supposed to ask, how would you feel if someone came to the school and said that you have to leave? You have to live in a completely different state. And how would you feel if when they came to tell you that, they had brought the army with them and the army was outside, ready to make you? The leaders of the Cherokee Nation thought of their people and made an assessment at how many lives would be lost if they fought. Precious lives to them. And so they decided that agreeing to the move would save as many lives as possible of the people that they care about. Like physically agreeing to the move, but not spiritually, not emotionally agreeing to the move. The American government promised that there would be plenty of food and blankets provided for them to make the journey. Again, they did not keep their promise. It's a very dark spot on the history of the American government. So they forced the Cherokee Nation to move because they wanted the land. They wanted the land for the white settlers. There was gold there. They wanted the gold. And the Cherokees did a lot of things to prove to the American government that they should stay. The American governments and the white settlers, they looked out and didn't see any permanent buildings, so they thought, well, nobody's using this land, I'll build here. But just because there isn't a permanent building doesn't mean that it doesn't belong to somebody. And so the Cherokee members said, fine, if that's what's going to take for you to believe that this is our land, we will build permanent buildings. We will build stores. We'll make a school. We will participate in activities that you understand. in order for you to recognize that we are a nation and a people and deserve to be here. So they built schools, they built buildings, they had commerce, they did all kinds of things, and it didn't matter to the American government. What mattered to the American government is that they wanted the land. So they still took it. Some Cherokees hid in places where people couldn't find them or get to them and continued to live that way. Most of them went on the trail. The trail was really long. It was during the winter in the middle of the country. It can get to negative 50 degrees. So 50 degrees, which is actually, 82 degrees below freezing. I'm not sure if it did at that point, but it can get really cold in the winter. Many older Native people died on the trip. Many young people became sick, and many strong leaders became very weak. The food that was promised to them was never delivered. The blankets and things to protect them from the cold never came. And few of them made it to the land that they were forced to go to. Where they were forced to go to was a new climate and a new place. They were not used to that environment. So a lot of them had a lot of difficulty adjusting to this place that they were made to be. They had to start hunting buffalo, and that caused great division with the natives that were already in that place that hunted the buffalo and needed the buffalo for themselves. This was a really, really dark time and a really shameful thing that the government did. Andrew Jackson was not sympathetic, and Martin Van Buren was not sympathetic. These are two presidents that forced them west. Davy Crockett, a famous frontiersman, was very sympathetic towards them, and he worked really hard to pass laws to help protect the Cherokee people. But the presidents desired the land more than they desired the protection of the people. There was an amazing Cherokee man who did an amazing thing for his people. He desired the secret to what he called the talking leaves of the white man. So, the pages of a book, the white settlers were able to read the leaves and communicate that way. And the Cherokee did not have a written language. They were solely an oral tradition people. So they didn't write anything down. They told the stories the way that the Israelites were before the Ten Commandments and Moses. That they had an oral tradition. The Cherokee was an oral tradition. They didn't write anything down. And this man Sequoyah really wanted that ability for his people. And so his first attempt was that he was going to create a picture for every word, like hieroglyphics. So he thought, okay, for every word in our language, I will have a different picture. And therefore, if I want to write something down, for every word, I'll draw that picture. It took him so long working on all of those pictures, and his wife actually got really upset that he spent so much time drawing those pictures rather than working in the garden, helping in the house, doing all kinds of things. She finally got so fed up that she burned all of his pictures. He had nothing left. And he had to start over again. And the second time, he said, never mind. I am going to draw a picture for each sound, a symbol for each sound. Our language, the English language, well, I should say my language. I speak English, and I know a lot of you speak multiple languages. It's the same with Spanish and Tigrinya. Each sound has a symbol. So in the English language, there are 26 symbols for the pure sounds: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. We have a symbol for each of those letters. Now we combine those letters and make more sounds. We have so many more sounds than 26, okay? But we have 26 letters, and then we combine them to make the other sounds as well. So Sequoyah came up with 86 symbols to the sounds of his Cherokee language. And after he did that, the Cherokee were able to learn how to read their language and how to write their own language, which led to books and, very importantly, newspapers, daily communication, printed, mass-produced communication for his people about what was happening and what was going on. What's so important about the newspaper is that it was a form of protection for his people. They desired protection because they were not receiving it from the American government. They needed to help take care of themselves. So, what else am I supposed to say? Okay, the Cherokee language is, you cannot match it to the English language. You can't say, oh, this Cherokee symbol is for the sound of this English sound. They don't match, which is really, really interesting. And the newspaper had the phoenix on it, as that's a Cherokee symbol. So you knew you were reading the Cherokee newspaper when you saw symbols that you didn't recognize and the phoenix at the top. If you've ever heard of the word Sequoyah before, it might be because of Sequoyah National Park, which is a protected area for the sequoia trees. The sequoia tree is named after the Sequoyah man who came up with the language, the written language for his people. He was highly honored that way. What you need to do today is, I have this lawyer's view. The world of law is really interesting. Everyone has an opportunity to be represented and have their voice heard, whether they're right and whether they're wrong. There are many successful lawyers who make it their calling to represent, quote unquote, the bad guy. And there are many lawyers who make it their calling to represent the good guy. When you study law, you have to be able to defend every side. So we have an opportunity. The question number 1 in your lawyer's view says, you are speaking for the Cherokee people. Tell the reason they should be allowed to stay in their land. Okay, so then you're going to defend the Cherokee people. Number 2, you are speaking for the white settlers. Tell the reasons they should have the land. Go for it. There's definitely an opinion. And in the courtroom, each side is defending themselves. We have to be able to do that even when the person is wrong. And number 3, speak for yourself. Say which side you would rather be the lawyer for and why, okay? Which side would you defend personally and why? The first 2 questions, those are not personal questions. Those are questions based on what you've learned in the history so far. You have to support why that person should stay. Native and settler. The third one is your opinion, okay? And the third one, you get to state your opinion. The other 2, those are not your opinions. That's stating why that person should be able to be there and defending it with facts, resources, okay? The third one, absolutely 100% your opinion. Go for it. And on Friday, we're going to meet together and we each get to say our opinion on what side we would want to be on and why. Get to see each other's faces and enjoy the day. All right? So, it's important to remember that God holds leaders and governments as well as individuals responsible for the decisions that they make. Everyone is going to stand before God. And He is going to talk with everyone about what they did and why they did it. There are things that were done wrong, and there is responsibility for that action. All right? So think about it, write it down, and be ready to share on Friday. I love you.